News Radio 840 WHAS. Good Sunday morning. Bob Sokoler, the Louisville Real Estate Show, with you till the top of the hour. Hope you're having a good Sunday, and it's off to a good one at least. With us, Steve Phillips, who is in for Randy Rocky over at Swan Financial. You can reach Steve anytime through Randy at 645-0736. Also here, Chuck Crosby, the Crosby Law Offices, and Chuck's direct number is 499-6360. My son, Greg, is back from his skiing vacation, and he's with us, but injured. You want to give him a brief outline of what happened?
Sadly, not on the slopes. I was crushing it out there in Steamboat, but I was cleaning up the condo, and this isn't the time to go on my poorly placed sconce ramp. But there was a poorly placed sconce, say that 10 times fast, that I was cleaning our condo up, stood up right into. No alcohol involved. I was up in the morning, barely had my first cup of coffee, cut my head open before I got in the shower, and was bleeding everywhere.
Ouch.
But I will say, if you get hurt in Steamboat, Colorado, best darn doctor ER staff I have ever come across. I've not been in many, but best staff I've ever come across. So kudos to them.
If you want to see Greg's injury, LouisvilleAnswers.com. That's a redirect to our YouTube channel, LouisvilleAnswers.com. Chuck, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, you were ensconced?
I was ensconced. My scalp was ensconced.
Very cute.
Unfortunately,
very cute. All right, we got a lot of stuff going on. Let me hit some quick news that I think it's making headlines. Heating bills this winter left many homeowners with the sticker shock. I also in that group. Rising cost of fuel made heating bills, not to mention gas bills, jump from 5% to 50% this winter. Some in regions are seeing higher heating bills than even us. Money Magazine spoke to homeowners who reported heating bills doubled their 2021 high levels in states like Minnesota and Wyoming. So I guess we should feel somewhat comforted by that. Mortgage rates fell this week amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine, sparking uncertainty across the globe, including U.S. markets. Steve, where are we now with the, I know we're, you can't speak the day to day, but are we above 4 in, and you want to give your NMLS number?
My NMLS number 60930.
Right.
So yeah, well, I mean, the rates are just going crazy right now. The market is obviously getting a lot of influx into it as far as the funds going into the bond market for the mortgage-backed securities and such.
Yeah.
Because everybody's scared of what's going on over in Europe, and so usually in times of peril, the bond market is usually a safe location for money. So we're getting a lot of influx into that. It has dropped the rates a little bit, but overall, I mean, we're still getting increases on them. Yesterday, I think there was 5 different rate adjustments throughout the day. Wow. It was all over the place.
Yeah, Fed's expected to make an announcement next week. They're expected to raise a 1/4 point for short-term rates, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. But specifically, are we above or below 4 right now? That seems to be a big question from a lot of clients.
I mean, I kind of right on there.
Right on it. Got it. All right.
Yeah,
we'll come back to that. Finally, the mega mansion named The One in Los Angeles, Bel Air neighborhood, sold at an auction this week for a record high price. You ready for this? It had 21 bedrooms, 49 bathrooms. I don't know why you need 49 bathrooms. A 30-car garage, 5 swimming pools. According to Fortune magazine, it sold at auction for $141 million, which includes a 12% commission.
Yeah, but that was a bummer. The article that I saw said for a mere, whatever, the $121 million, because it was listed, I think, for way higher than that originally, and it had to go at auction because no one wanted it.
No one wanted it. Right. It's too big, especially with the
too much money
of what's the heating bill going to be?
Yeah, exactly.
No kidding.
Let's get to some of the questions. Chuck, I've been getting a number of calls, and I know I send them to you, and so you may already know a little bit about this. Jackson says he has a home he's going to sell. Somehow somebody found out about it who claims to be an investor, and he says he wants to give Jackson $200,000 for the house. He wants to pay Jackson $200,000, but he's a little concerned about that because it would be broken up. This guy would pay Jackson $45,000 up front, make payments to Jackson, as well as make payments for Jackson to his mortgage company until the mortgage is paid off, which is about another 10 years. So the investor is basically buying the home. The deed gets transferred into the investor's name, but Jackson's name is still on the mortgage itself. And this investor says he will continue to pay the mortgage and pay Jackson an additional amount of money per month, $300 or so per month. This sounds like it's a disaster in the making.
Oh, yeah. It is. He's going to pay the mortgage right up until the time he doesn't. And then our seller has no ownership of a property that he owes a lot of money on.
Yeah, short and sweet. Yeah. So, Steve, your thoughts on this from a lender's standpoint?
Oh man, I just feel bad for the seller. I mean, it just sounds like he's just setting himself up badly to fail on this in the future because at some point.
This was a common thing back 08, 09. People had come in and, I'll give you $1,000 for your house and give me the deed. And deed never seems to get recorded. All of a sudden, 6-7 months down the road, people find, no mortgage was made, no payments, etc. And that's the good scenario because the deed was never recorded. Sometimes they would record the deed, and it just gets ugly. They're trying to make a quick flip on it, is what they're doing, probably.
What's concerning to me is that the deed goes into the investor's name, even though the mortgage is still in our Jackson's name.
Right. They're trying to piggyback on their financing so that they can fix it up a little bit and then flip it real quick. Presumably when they flip it, they pay off the mortgage. Sounds real good on paper. I'm sure there's some late night or internet guru who, sold them this plan for a lot of money. The problem is they don't always work out like that. Just because, that's your plan doesn't mean that's where it goes. And then, the investor can just walk away, deed it to anybody, or just leave it and walk away. And then the mortgage is still out there. Seller still owes the money, but they don't have the house. They have
this is a big concern. Big concern. Yeah. So your word of caution to anybody, any of our listeners who are approached to have someone buy their home because this market is so hot, the listener may be saying, this may be a good deal. What would you suggest to everybody?
Don't do it. That would be the first thing. There's a million ways to skin this cat. You can do lease options. You can do, the ever popular contracts for deed. At least that would allow the seller to keep their thumbprint on the property. But, it could still create a mess.
Or do what I do. And when you hear something like this, folks, if a red flag comes up or the hairs on your back of your neck start to wiggle a little bit, if you have hairs on the back of your neck, call Chuck Crosby. And I'll be giving out his number again because you need some advice from someone who you can trust.
Just go watch the Twitter, or what was it, the Tinder Swindler? There's a Netflix.
Yeah, the new Netflix movie.
Tinder, I'm talking about the Swindler, the Tinder Swindler. I'm tongue-tied today.
Tinder Swindler. Haven't seen that one.
The fraud, the amount of fraud that people, it's the humanity of it, right? Like people are getting taken advantage of, and that's the irony of it, is you don't want to ever put yourself in a position to be taken advantage of.
They are, and in every case, in most every case I've seen, the sellers are in a hard way. They can't make their mortgage payment, and they think this is an easy out. So, hey, this is all legal and everything, and then they jump on it, only to find out that they're worse off, come 6-7 months down the road. Now, there's just a lot of ways to do it differently.
Yes, legally, but to your advantage, not to be taken advantage of. All right, let's move on. This is coming for you, Steve. Amy is writing in. You're going to find this interesting. She was pre-approved with the 2 mortgage companies. One of them was Swan, but she decided to go with another mortgage company because she had a checking account with that other company. So now Amy is writing us and telling us she's having problems with the other mortgage company and wishes she had gone with Swan. There's delay. She says apparently the appraisal on the home that she's buying has been done, but the loan officer at that other company was rude several times and is not returning her calls. And she's asking, is it too late to go back to Swan? So at what point is it too late to make a switch, Steve, and it could be Swan, it could be another mortgage company, but if you're finding you're having problems from the mortgage company that you're working with, when is it too late?
Well, technically never. I mean, you have your timeline of your contract is the biggest restrictive factor in that. With FHA, VA government loans, those appraisals get transferred over quite easily, and all lenders accept transferred appraisals. Conventional loans have a little bit harder timeline transferring over appraisals, so sometimes there's that aspect involved. But for the most part, if they're experiencing these, we have. Not just me. I mean, as a broker, I have the ability to shop. So with that allows me to do a lot more things. But what I was trying to get to is that, we get homeowners over to us that have been turned down or having issues with their loans all the time. Sometimes they come to us turned down a couple different ways before we can get them approved. So, it does happen. Things get found in underwriting that can bog a file down or cause an issue that wasn't foreseen. But as a broker, I'm going to hawk that. As a broker, that I've just got so many more ability and variables to shop with. But it does happen from time to time. But there isn't really a time limit on when you can transfer.
All right, but if you do, we should point out that if and when you do try to change, you need to be able to tell your agent and have your agent tell the seller's agent that you're making a switch, because it could delay a little bit. You don't want to do this without everyone's approval.
Yeah, the contract closing date is going to be one of the main limiting factors in that decision, and whether the seller can extend or will extend.
Got it. All right. Just a reminder, something actually brand new that I'm doing now. I'm meeting with sellers explaining real estate secrets. It's kind of an inside look as to how to get your home sold fast and for most money, but no obligation, no cost, simple setup, either by Zoom or in person. Go to LouisvilleHouseDoctor.com, fill out the form, and bam, we'll get together and talk. Back to the questions. Mandy called me and says, Chuck, that her apartment complex in Indian Ridge, which is in Shelbyville, is no longer safe for seniors. Used to be all seniors are there, disabled persons. It was bought by another company in Tennessee, and they are not keeping up maintenance or safety. So who does Mandy call? Because she says the police are not being responsive. What would you suggest to Mandy?
Okay, I'm not sure where the police come into this. And that sounds like the safety issue is criminal activity, which is a whole other ball of wax. If there's criminal activity, document it, call the cops, call them as often as you can. And sooner or later, something will happen. Hopefully, I have a couple of horror stories from that particular scenario. So don't confront the criminals. But if that's the safety issue she's talking about, that's not a senior or non-senior issue. That's an everybody issue. But just keep calling and document it. Go down to the police station and, where it's not a phone, it's a person.
Gotcha. Yeah. That may be the best thing. She sounded very upset when she called me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, is there
contacting the management company? If the folks that own it are out of Tennessee, they've probably got a local management company, and get an attorney to contact them, because of course having a property unsafe is can be considered a constructive eviction. So there are things to do there.
Greg, you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, Chuck took it out. I was going to say, make sure you document that. Make sure you're reaching out to the management company. If it's not just a crime issue, if it is a safety thing and you're conflating, who do I go to when I have this if my management company is not responding? Is there, Chuck, do you know, is there a place that you can go to the state if it's to make a report on a management company that's not keeping up their dwelling?
Well, it depends on what type of tenants you're going to have in the place. Now, Shelby County doesn't have the Landlord Tenant Act, so there's a lot of different, or hasn't incorporated it. So there's a lot of different things you can do, but most of them include getting an attorney and going that route.
Gotcha. We're going to take a break. When we come back, bed bugs, a real problem, some tips and what to look for. In for Randy Rocky, Steve Phillips joins us. You can still reach Steve and or Randy and everybody else at Swan at 6450736. Also, Chuck Crosby, the Crosby Law Offices. Not only do they do a great job at closings, but they also do a variety of other things, including wills. Great guy, 499-6360. My son Greg, who's playing injured with his head.
No, I don't even care.
Man, as your dad, I'm a little concerned about that, but I understand it wasn't from skiing. It was the sconce that got you. And you can reach me anytime on my cell phone. We're hoping to help you get your home listed and sold. 376-5483. We also have a bunch of agents who can help you in terms of finding your house to buy. 376-5483. Back in a moment on News Radio 840 WHAS. News Radio 840 WHAS, Bob Sokoler, the Louisville Real Estate Show, with you till the top of the hour. Thank you, Barbara Corcoran. Got a call from somebody who's a fan of the show. Says, hey, I see you and your son Greg on with Barbara all the time. And I said, yeah. And so, Greg, you know what I did? I never did this board. I Googled, because that's what one of the commercials says, Google Bob and Greg Sokoler. And there's a variety of stuff that comes up. You just need to know how to spell the last name. Also, here with us, besides my son Greg, who does our marketing, photography, and so much more, Chuck Crosby, the Crosby Law Offices at 499-6360. And Steve Phillips is in for a well-deserved vacation for Randy Rocky at Swan Financial at 645-0736. If you are traveling, be careful because bed bugs are everywhere. In fact, Chicago settled in for the second year in a row as the number one city on Orkins. That's that exterminating company. Top 50 bed bug cities. The list includes Philadelphia, New York, and a variety of things. And you wonder, so where does Louisville come in? Well, I am proud to tell you, folks, that out of 50, Louisville came in 49th in terms of bed bug problems. So good job for.
I wonder if it had anything to do with climate base. You know, I lived in New York, and when you have people living on top of each other, and you're on public transit, and those factors help spread. We don't have public transit here. We don't have a lot of dense housing in Louisville, so places like that probably aren't as susceptible, I would assume. But I do remember living there. You know, you would always hear about, so and so got bed bugs. And it was just kind of like a stigma, like having lice. And you get the fumigation, you throw some stuff out, you get over it, you're fine.
Bed bugs are known for rapid population. Females can deposit 1 to 5 eggs a day and may lay 200 to 500 eggs during their lifetime. So you want to look at, and the good news is we don't have them here, but the problem is if you travel, you may experience these. So
Bob's been traveling a lot, so what he's saying is he's worried about the bed bugs. Chuck, you just got back from a trip. During the day, including look at mattress tags, seams, behind baseboards, headboards, electrical outlets. Chuck, stop scratching.
Yeah, I won't go any further. If you want more, send me an email, bob@wesellouisville.com. Put bed bugs in the subject line. I'll send you the story on that. Hopefully that will help everybody who is listening to
worried about bed bugs.
We now have 5 ways to help you sell your home and just about guaranteed to help you find your next home. Go to, you ready? Here we go. BobSellMyHome.com or SellMyHomeBob.com. There we go. Let's go back over to Steve. David wondering how many days before closing do mortgage companies run your credit? So they run it at the beginning in theory. Correct, Steve?
Well, yeah, that's what they get pre-qualified or pre-approved for, is that initial credit pool. It gets you. That's what everything is based on. Those reports are good for 4 months. So unless you're going past 4 months, the lenders are not. Well, they don't pull another credit report. What I guess he is referring to is they will do a softening. They'll check just to make sure that there's no new credit lines open, no new debt loaded onto the debt to income ratio. They do that through a soft pull. It is not a hard pull. What we pull at the beginning of the loan is the hard pull. That's the actual credit pull most people associate. What the lenders pull is just more an inquiry check just to make sure no new debt. But it doesn't impact your score like ours initial pull does.
Got it. But we should point out, don't go between the time you initially apply for a mortgage and the time you close, don't open up new accounts at stores or
that's
buy
what
a car.
It sounds like our questionnaire was about was how soon can I go open new lines of credit before I've heard you shouldn't do it like the day after either. You should wait a little bit and not immediately do it. I mean, it's very rare that there's a problem after the case, but if there were, maybe wait a week, until after closing if you're going to open something new up.
Yeah, we prefer not to do it at all until you get to closing. I mean, truly,
Well, yeah.
That's what we advise is not opening any new lines of credit, not even having an inquiry, simply because there are things that could impact it where, for whatever reason, very rarely, but even in those very rare times, you want to take everything you can to make sure that you get the best outcome. So if you have to, the lenders are going to find out. They will make you give them an updated statement for the new credit to show what the balance, monthly payment is and such. But the best line is not to open it. If you do it minimally and only under dire need.
So without giving away names, Greg, tell everybody who didn't follow that rule, you don't want to say by name, but tell the scenario of somebody we know who didn't follow that. Do you remember this? You look like you don't know.
No, you've got deer in headlights. I mean, I'm trying to think in my head who might have.
It was part of one of the members of our family.
I believe, but I would never rat on anybody. But
I'm not saying you to rat. I'm just saying this person did open up I think they were buying a couch or something.
There was furniture involved. I made a phone call, told my good, very close relative / family member how ridiculous and stupid that was.
Yes.
And that they needed to not do that immediately and then get cash on that purchase and not have that on their credit.
So my point.
But they were okay. Listen, it wasn't a situation where they couldn't, and the debt to income wasn't going to mess them up.
That's
they
fine,
were in a position where they would have been fine.
Right. But if it could happen to somebody who is part of the family who knows enough, well enough, it can happen to any one of
a former agent that's in referral status.
Former agent, yes, that's right. Okay. All right, we're not going to go any further. All right.
And there's also, it's not just the debt to income ratio, but just even having a new inquiry and a brand new credit
could do it.
Report, can drop your score as well. So it's not just your debt to income ratio; it's your credit score itself that can be damaged.
All right. So I got this another email in this is for Chuck, and I sent you some background. I did some research for you because that's my job, is to make sure that everybody has research for them. Kathy heard us talk about love letters and writing them to home sellers before. We've talked about this on the radio show. So in case you don't know, so if you're a buyer, in the past, we've suggested, as well as other agents, that you as the buyer write a letter talking about how much they love the house. She recently asked her realtor to let her write one of those love letters, and she was running an offer, and her realtor said no, that it was illegal. She's wondering, is that true? So, Chuck, did you get the latest update this past week about what's going on in Oregon?
Yeah, well, in Oregon, I mean, there are so many unintended consequences when you get people on a fad law type scenario. Yeah. Oh, hey, this is going on. Let's slap a law on that. There ought to be a law. Bad law is made in haste like that. So what? Oregon said you can't do it. Went to court. Now we've got a federal judge putting an injunction on it saying, hey, you can't ban people from doing this, at least as long as that is in litigation. I suspect you can't ban, and I think that's how it'll probably turn out. The government can't tell you what to say or not to say. Okay. I kind of see this whole thing as an analogy or analogous to you don't want this bad outcome. You don't want people discriminating based on the information you give them in the love letter. Okay. I get that. That's a horrible thing. But as a seller, I don't know that I like the idea of the government saying that I can't do something or read something or whatever because I might do something illegal. The act itself is not illegal, so why ban that? That's like saying, well, don't sell Chuck a gun because you never know when he's going to go, nuts and shave his head and climb a clock tower.
Yeah, we know better.
There's a good movie actually with that same plot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So
let me like that kind of law.
Yeah, but let me ask you though, the National Association of Realtors, which governs all of us as realtors, came out with a policy. I think they suggested, and maybe went a little bit further.
Yeah,
don't write love
be
letters.
Involved with it. But you note that they did say if your person still says they want to do it, you just document that you told them not a great idea. You don't have anything to do with writing it, but you can't stop them.
And I think it comes down to it's the separation between the corporation and the individual, right? You general corporate law that deals with federal things has to be fair housing, things you can say, no steering, no redlining, and this
Right.
may or may not fall into that case. But in the case of the individual, the seller, they're not a corporation. That's their asset to
it goes
sell.
even further than that. It's wrong to redline. It's
Right.
illegal to redline. It's illegal to do all these things. These things are not free speech. Okay, government comes in and says, "I can't tell you I love your house."
Right.
That's wrong.
It's not that they're stopping them from doing an illegal action. They're stopping them from having information that might at some time in the future lead to me doing something illegal, and that bothers me.
We got a minute left. Let me just bring up one point, and this is where this conversation goes.
Mhm.
So on one hand, folks, as realtors and attorneys and mortgage lenders, we are always impressed with trying to do the best job possible for our client. That's our goal. That's what we want to do.
Fiduciary responsibility.
Yes.
Bingo.
Now,
Yep.
if it's in the best interest for our client to write a love letter in an attempt to get one of the very few homes that are on the market, why would our board of realtors association nationally want to stop us? Well, it's because they're worried about discrimination, but I'm not so sure that anyone's had a discrimination, or just limit the type of letters. You know what I'm saying here? there's a conflict.
I don't.
there.
Yeah, I think that if you've got it, are we going to ban having Nest cameras in our houses?
Right.
Because
That's the
I
Ring
might
doorbell
see-
theory. Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I can't see who's coming into my house to look at it.
Right.
I mean,
Where does it
that's
stop?
discrimination.
No.
Yeah.
Good conversation. We got to pause it there. We're out of time. My thanks to our dear friend Chuck Crosby, the Crosby Law Offices, who does such a great job with closings, wills, and a wide variety of things. You can reach Chuck directly at 499-6360. Steve Phillips did a great job filling in for Randy Rocky. We appreciate you being there, buddy. You can reach Randy
Absolutely.
and his team at 645-0736. My son Greg, who does all of our marketing, photography, and so much more. Very proud of that guy. Does a great job. And you can reach me, Bob Sokoler, anytime on my cell phone, 376-5483. We are out of time. See you next Sunday on News Radio 840 WHAS.